Hey guys, Brian here from 5 to Go. We're going to have a really quick one for you today. We are talking all about all of the essential gear that you need to just get out there and use your RV. It's that time of year, and yes, things have been a little bit weird. Campgrounds have been closed, but things are starting to reopen. And we know a lot of you guys have RVs. They might be new, or you may have only used them once or twice last year. So we wanted to just jump in and lay out basically all of the stuff you need to have a successful RV trip. So I'm going to do 4 different categories, and inside each category I'm going to have required stuff and then some extra stuff that we recommend. So we're going to talk about power, water, sewer, and then safety, setup, and everything else. And we're going to put all of the time codes to those 4 categories right there. So if you want to skip ahead, just go to one of these. Otherwise, let's get started with power. All right, so first up we have power. There are really just 2 main things that you absolutely have to have. First is a surge protector. I have a built-in surge protector on our new motorhome here, but on our travel trailer we had an external one that you plugged into the post and then you plugged your RV into that. So I'm going to put a picture of that up here. And you don't camp without one of these. We stayed in almost 150 campgrounds when we were going around in our truck and travel trailer, and I think 2 or 3 times I would plug that thing into the post and it has little status lights, and a couple times it had red lights, which meant I'm not plugging my rig into that. It's not safe. So we actually had to move to another site in that campground, got all green lights, good to go. So do not hook up power without a surge protector. Also, while I'm talking about power, turn the breakers off whenever you're plugging or unplugging your rig. Okay, the other thing you need is adapters. So we have a 50 amp rig, which means we have this big honking cable here. So you're going to need adapters because you're not always going to have access to either 50 or 30 amp power. Some campgrounds are only 30 amp. Sometimes they only have sites that are available that have 30 amps. So if you have a 50 amp rig, you're going to want a 50 female to a 30 male to get this thing stepped down to the lower power rating. I also have one that is 50 female to like an extension cord male that lets me plug it in here at the house. That's also handy when you're mooch stocking or if you just have somewhere you can plug in real quick just to kind of top off your batteries. So surge protector and adapters. Now as far as optional stuff, and this might not actually be optional, but some extra things you might want to carry around for power. Extension cords. If you have one of these like 50 to extension cord adapters or even 30 to one of these, you're going to want a heavy duty outdoor extension cord, something that will take 15 or 20 amps. Some other just little exterior extension cords are really handy too for running lights and stuff like that. And also if you buy a surge protector, and you should, they can be a little pricey and you're leaving them just kind of hanging out outside. So I would recommend getting like a cable lock for one of those so you can kind of attach it to the power post in the campground just to keep people honest and keep it from walking away. And what I mean by cable lock is if you look on Amazon, and I'll have links down below, it'll just be, people use them for like hunting cameras and stuff. It's just a big, like a bike lock that you cinch down, and that should keep that thing secure. So that's it for power. Let's go talk about water. All right, so over here we're going to talk about water. The main things that you absolutely have to have are filtration. You want to filter all of the water coming into your rig. If you have onboard, like in this motorhome, that's great. If you don't, there are plenty of solutions that you can attach to the hoses out back. I'll put up a picture here of what we used with our travel trailer. So you always, always, always want filtration because campground water, all over the place. We've had campground water that is fantastic. We've had campground water that is slightly brown. So filter everything you can. Even if you're not going to drink the water that's coming from the campground and you're going to do your own filtration like a Brita or a Berkey or bottled water or whatever, you want to filter all this water coming in so it doesn't collect in your hot water heater, your toilets, your sinks, all of that stuff. If you have a washer and dryer in there, you don't want all this nasty, heavy, particulate filled water getting in the rig. So filter everything that comes in. And second, you want to regulate the pressure of everything coming in. This is a super basic little brass regulator that basically you just put this in line down the way and the water comes in here and it just reduces all the pressure, so what's coming through is safe for using in an RV. This is one style. They also make adjustable ones that have a big dial on them. There's a picture of one of those here. So regardless of what styles you go with, you want to regulate the pressure. We've been in campgrounds that have had like crazy water pressure. If you run that in here, you run the risk of just like blowing apart fittings and making things swell, and just water damage is the #1 thing you want to avoid with RVs, so you want to regulate that pressure coming in. Next, you're going to need some hoses. When it comes to drinking hoses, this is the best. Full stop. Buy one of these. This is a 0G flexible, drinking safe water hose. The reason these are the best is because just look how flexible this thing is. I spooled this up over my elbow like an extension cord, and with those really rigid, like white Camco ones that you see everybody have, you're gonna see people out there fighting them, especially if it's cold. In terms of how much length, I like a 25 foot. These do come in 50, but way more often than not, you're gonna be within 25 feet. If you need more length, I recommend having this nice little 10 foot, right? This is not a 0G. 0G is only 25 or 50. But if you have an extra little 10 foot, I would say 80% of the time, 25 was enough. 15% of the time, I needed like 2 or 3 feet more. So rather than unspooling another 25 feet, 10 feet gets you there no problem. And we also have another 25 foot hose in there for when you really got to reach. But between a 25 and a 10, you're probably good 99% of the time. In terms of extras for water, I like these little 90-degree elbows. On our last RV and on this one, the inlet is here, and when you put a hose in, it kind of puts a lot of downward pressure on it. So I like this little elbow, kind of takes that extra pressure off of it, and also you're not constantly attaching and detaching a hose to this, which can wear out over time. So let this take all of the wear. This is an easy $5 thing to replace. The one that's in the RV, not so easy to replace. I also like to keep around a Y splitter. I don't have one in hand right now, I've got one on the way, but here's a picture of one. Basically what I do is I attach that to the campground water supply first, and then I run water to here for all the water for the rig, and then I have an extra spigot to hook up to if I need to run the tank flush or fill buckets for the kids or just do anything else with the water. It just keeps you from having to disconnect and reconnect things. And also there's things called flow meters. If you do a lot of boondocking and you put water in your freshwater tank, if you attach a flow meter in line, here's a picture of one, you will know exactly how much water is going into your freshwater tank. That's a really nice thing to know because, again, campground pressures and campground flow rates are really different. So running water at one campground for a minute might be X number of gallons, and then running water at a different campsite for a minute might be twice as much. So the flow meter will tell you exactly how much is going in. Knowing everything exactly is a good thing. So that's it for water. Let's go ahead and talk about sewer. So we did jump from this other bay, and you probably saw a like black and green sewer hose. We're gonna get to that guy in a minute. So apologies for the neighbor mowing his lawn, but it's nice out and we wanted to get this done for you guys. So first thing you're gonna need, obviously, is some sewer hose. Now, my favorite is the Camco Rhino, like 10 foot or 20 foot, it's two 10 foot sections. And don't worry, I haven't used these with a black tank yet. That's why I don't have gloves on right now. Any other time in the future, when you see me touching this stuff, I will have gloves on. But this has not been used. It is pristine, fresh out of the box. And we used this system. So it's two 10-foot hoses that collapse. And look how far they collapse. Keep that in mind for when we go talk about that one. So these collapse down really nice. They have caps on them that lock. You see they have lugs. They turn and lock. So it comes with two 10-foot sections with 4 caps and also a nice clear elbow. And those of you that are new to emptying black tanks, you might think, clear elbow? That means I'm watching what's going through there. That's disgusting. Yes, it is. However, if you don't know what's coming through here, then you don't know how much is left in your tank. So you want a clear elbow, not an opaque elbow. You want a clear elbow so you can watch what's coming through. You'll get used to it, it's okay. But basically you're gonna be emptying that and then flushing water through it until all of the chunks are gone. So clear elbow, good thing. Another thing you're gonna need, and a lot of people think you don't, however, you do, is something like this. Basically, this is an expandable sewer hose support. I'll put up a picture of what this looks like when it's out with a hose on it. These are actually required by law in some states. They don't allow you to run sewer hoses on the ground. They need to be elevated. Another benefit to this is you see this end is taller and this end is shorter. You can kind of create a downhill between your rig and wherever the sewer hookup is. So you have, you can encourage everything to flow nicely. So get one of these. It may seem like some extra luxury nicety thing, but you have to have it in some places, and it actually is super handy. Another thing that you're probably going to have is, I call this a donut. Obviously I haven't used it yet, so it's still in the package, but I used this, I would say about 20 or 30% of the time when we were full-timing last time for about 2 years. And basically what this does is if you're in an older park, or if your sewer connection for some reason is broken, or it doesn't have the threads, because you see how this has threads? So in some places this will screw in and make a nice tight seal. If you can't screw it in, basically this slides into the donut and then you press it down in there and it creates a seal to keep gases from coming back out. These are also required in some campgrounds. I don't know if that's a local or a state law, but we've definitely seen where if you can't thread it, you need a donut. One other thing that I don't have on hand here, because it's up in the cabinet in the bathroom, is tank treatment. It looks like little dishwasher packs or little Tide Pods or whatever, but what you do is after you empty your tanks, you drop it in through the toilet inside, and then you flush a couple times, and it basically gets enzymes and stuff in there to start help things break down and also help with the odor that might come back up. So you're definitely going to want some of those. And the other thing that I would say is required is gloves. So whether you use disposable gloves or reusable gloves, that's up to you. I like reusable ones, and we'll get to those in just a second because we're still going to talk about the hoses I don't like. So I'll have my gloves on in a second and I'll show you those. So getting to the recommended list, you're going to probably want a hose like this. This is not a drinking water safe hose. This will never be used to hook up from the water to the freshwater inlet. This is only for flushing the black tank. That's why it's a different color. In our last rig, I had an orange one. It was really obnoxious orange. The gray one works too. Even though these flush systems have backflow preventers, it's never a 100% guarantee. So this is basically your dirty hose. This is also handy when you're in a dump station. If you need to just run water through your sewer hose or spray off like if you spilled a little bit, you're going to be using this one. This is your dirty hose. Another thing you might want, again, I haven't used this, that's why I don't have gloves on. Another thing you might want to get is just a clear section that you can put up on the top side of your sewer line here. So if you can see in to see what's coming out and then see at the other end with that clear elbow here. So this is on the RV, this is down on the ground. You know exactly what's going on. So if you see this coming clear and then this is still kind of sludgy, you know there's still a bunch of stuff in your pipe. If this is running dirty and there's nothing coming out of here, there might be something blocking up your pipe. You might have to lift it and shake it around a little bit. So again, it gives you more intelligence as to what's going on with your pipes. So now let's go talk about gloves. And while I have them on, we're going to talk about a sewer system that I bought down in Ocala that I think is pretty terrible. And I'll tell you why. All right, so we're back up here now. So I have used this system. When I was driving this rig from Florida back here to Colorado, I stayed in a campground and I used this hose system, and I think it's absolutely terrible. Before we get to that, let's talk about gloves. I like reusable gloves. A nice tall cuff is really nice, so if there's any kind of splashing or anything, you're covered. Also, covers your watch. And I will be washing my hands immediately after using these. But I wanted to show you, a little floppy there. It's all right, it'll work itself out. So these are the gloves that I like. You can get these at RV stores. You can also use disposable gloves if you're into that. I don't like having to deal with the disposable gloves because then when you take them off, you gotta like find some trash somewhere, and it's not always, there's no trash can here. The trash can is normally inside. Anyway, I like these. Use disposable. Whatever you do, use gloves. You're dealing with poop. Okay, so the first reason I don't like this hose, I think this is called Titan. All right, so there's a couple things I really don't like about these hoses. First of all, this is 10 feet of hose, and this is pretty much as good as it compresses. Like, it's so heavy and it fights compression. Just for a comparison, here's that same Rhino hose, 10 feet. Come on, guys. The reason that it is so long, it doesn't really compress really well, is because it is crush proof. So you can kind of do this. But in 2 years of running sewer hoses and being in campgrounds and all that, never once did I step on my hose. So that is totally unnecessary. Another thing I really don't like about these is, so you know how the other one has a nice twisty, like see how hard it is to get off? The cap goes in and snaps in. This one here, this just presses in. So there's nothing holding, like, see that? Pops right out. So I actually, when I went from sea level to 6,000 feet here, one of these popped out because of the pressure difference. Luckily, I had only used this once and I flushed it really well, but that's gross. Like, why doesn't that lock on? So I don't like that. And also, this big, huge honking thing to screw it on is, it might be nice from an ergonomic standpoint, but from a space efficiency standpoint, not only does it add an extra, 6 or 8 inches to the hose, because it's all kind of rigid down through here too, but it also, if we look in here, I don't really have room for this because my outlet is here. It's a little bit offset. So when I bring this up through here, I basically have to pinch this over to get it on there because of how long this is up in here. And to do the Rhino as a comparison, I'm still gonna have to juke to the side, but look how much more room there is to just do a nice little S curve here. So that's another thing I really don't like about this hose. And finally, you saw me move this elbow out of the way. Not only is this elbow opaque, where this one's clear, and we just talked about being able to see stuff coming through, you can't see anything coming through this. Also, what is this handle for? Like, okay, it makes it easy to put on. I was actually, when I was at the campground in Pensacola, I could not get this to thread because the handle was in the way. If you've ever been to a campground, you know that a lot of times these sewer connections are kind of recessed into the ground because they want, any standing water to go down. So with this one, this piece actually kind of comes apart, right? So you can see how small it is. It's just the size of the sewer hole. So if you need to get this down in here, you can even get little extensions that'll rise this up. I'll put a picture of one of those up here. I actually used one in the last rig. So if you need to get down into a little hole, not a problem with that. With this one, it's not like the handle comes off. It's on there, it's molded on there. This doesn't come apart at all. Why? Like, don't buy that. Get the Rhino kit. You'll be happy with it. I promise you. So a couple other optional things. This rig has a built-in black tank flush. So basically what that means is I can take that gray hose, I can put a little regulator, pressure regulator on it, pressure regulate your water, and then I can hook it up to this, and this sprays water real crazy on the inside of the black tank and will kind of knock things loose that might be stuck to the edges. So basically what you do is you just open your sewer line, or you open your black tank, turn the water on here, and it just helps flush everything through. If your rig doesn't have one of these, they make these wands that you can attach a hose to. You put down through the toilet and it kind of sprays into the black tank. I've never had to use one of those because our last rig also had a flush, but we've heard people have some pretty good success with those. And finally, if you really get a clog, so first of all, your black tank should always be closed unless you are actively dumping it. Don't leave it open at a campground because all the liquids will drain out, solids will stay. That's a very bad thing. You want lots of liquids in there. But something happens and you get a clog that you can't break loose either with the flush or just, dumping extra water in, you're gonna want what's called a flush king. I'll put a picture of one of those right here. This thing is magical. Basically what happens is you attach it to the outlet down here and you attach a water hose to it and you close a gate, turn the water pressure on, and it punches water up into the tank from the bottom, dislodging anything that might be blocking that outlet. And then you turn it off, open the gate, and if everything dislodged, you will have a big old surge of not awesome looking stuff just flowing down through that pipe. You might have to do it once or twice, but it will bust basically anything loose. So one of those is very, very handy. They're a little pricey, but it's a heck of a lot cheaper than calling someone out to like plumb your tank or whatever. So I'm gonna get these gloves off. I'm gonna go wash my hands real quick, and then we will finish up this video with our recommendations for setup stuff, safety stuff, security stuff, things like that. All right, so for our final category of things that you absolutely should have with you when going out RVing so you can have a fun and successful time camping is tools and safety things and security things. Now, this list has changed a lot from our travel trailer to this big old beast here, but I'm gonna go ahead and run through everything. First of all, you're gonna want an air compressor for your tires on your truck, for your tires on your RV, trailer, or motorhome, or otherwise. And if you didn't know, trailer tires and motorhome tires use much higher PSIs than automotive tires. So you're going to need a compressor that can handle that kind of pressure. So this one that I have here is a big, huge Viair air compressor. And this is made specifically for RVs. There'll be a link to it down below. And basically, it will do 120 PSI without even breaking a sweat. And it also comes with two, I think these stretch out to 40 feet. So I have 80 feet of hose. I can get anywhere I need to get to, and I have way more pressure than I need for all of the tires I have. So you're gonna want something like this. You're also gonna want just some general like hand tools. So I've got my toolbox here. I've got like a hex set, and I've got some wrenches, stuff like that. I also have a big 10-ton bottle jack if I need to raise anything up in any way. Got gloves, I've got tire changing stuff, I've got road triangles, a couple flares, you know, that sort of stuff that's just safe if you have to pull over on the side of the road for any reason. And I also have some big chunky rubber tire chocks in here. They look like this. And then for trailers, you're also going to need leveling blocks, and you're going to need ways to raise up one side of the trailer or the other. And I don't need that with this because I have hydraulic leveling. And I also have an article on our website, 5togo.com, that is all about our process for setting up the trailer that we had. So there'll be a link to that down below. So just go there and you'll see all the gear we had to use, the process we used to set it all up and all that, just to stay safe and make sure everything was level, everybody was happy. All right, so that is kind of everything. That is all of the gear that we think is absolutely required, plus some extra recommendations. There's gonna be a bunch of links in the description down below, and the main one is look for the amazon.com/shop/5togo. I have a list in there called Essential Gear for Beginner RVers or something like that, but you'll see it. And that has everything that I have talked about, all of the brands I've talked about, everything in one nice little place. And if you guys use our Amazon links, Amazon gives us a little bit of a like finder's fee for stuff you order. Doesn't cost you anything, but it does throw a little bit our way. So if you appreciated this video, that is a fantastic and free way for you guys to support us. And also, if you want to join the 5togo Roadrunners, that is a special group of people we have on Patreon that have decided to support us for a couple bucks a month. And we do exclusive videos for them. We do live streams for them. We give you free stickers. We have monthly giveaways. And our giveaway coming up in June is actually gonna be for a solar panel. So you don't wanna miss that. So thank you guys for watching. Check out all the links down below, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.